Hello, hello. It's another Friday. Welcome to I Feel Fat Today. I'm your host, Kelly Taylor. Please subscribe to us on YouTube at I Feel Fat Today, where there are full video episodes like the very one you are listening to. Not the intro. Intro doesn't have video, but my interview with my guest will have video. Please follow us on social media at I Feel Fat Today, and you can follow me, your host, at Hello, this is Kelly. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I do not have a video intro. I could not get it together in time, so I'm doing this real quick. Before we go into our interview with my guest this week, I don't know, possibly someone might be listening to this from my appearance on the Gate podcast. If you are, hello, hi, nice to meet you. Thanks for making the jump over to check out the podcast. If you're a listener of I Feel Fat Today and you want to check me and Joe out on a really fun podcast we did on the Gate that premiered earlier this week, so I highly encourage you to check that out. One thing I want to say before I lead you off into the episode with my guest this week is that I do have a low-calorie sweet treat of the week this week. And the low-cal sweet treat of the week goes out to South Park. If you haven't, you must check out the latest South Park 50-minute movie that they put out recently. It's called South Park: The End of Obesity. It's so funny and kind of spot on what's happening in the real world when it comes to weight loss drugs and the powers that be that want to stop them and the people that use them. It's like a highly satirical look at, weight loss drugs in our society at large. But it was so funny. I was crying laughing. So I highly recommend checking that one out. And that's all I got for you. So I'm hoping next week we can have a full episode where I, have a nice video intro where we can connect and whatever, but I'm just trying to get my life in track and in order and on track. So thanks for bearing with me, but I think you'll like the interview with my guest this week. We talk a little bit about dieting, and we probably could have talked more about dieting, but instead we talk a lot about hypnotherapy, reprogramming the brain, why we have the behaviors that we have, and I really enjoyed my conversation with this week's guest, and I think you will too. So without further ado, please welcome to the podcast, Mary Jane Murphy. So where are you from?
I'm from Westchester.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're from Westchester, and what other places have you lived besides Hawaii? You've lived in Hawaii. That's exciting. That's very cool.
Yeah, I lived in Yonkers. I lived in Riverdale.
Okay.
And I went to St. Margaret's in the Bronx. Yeah. And then Westchester, and then Hawaii, and then Florida.
Nice.
I went to UCF.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Yeah. What brought you to Hawaii?
The weather.
Yeah.
I was just like, I had lived in Florida, and I was like, I want to, experience warm weather and just see what that's like. Let's just go there for a year. And then 7 years we were there.
I mean, I can totally get why. One of my girlfriends moved to Hawaii. She's back now. And she's sorry she came back. She's like, I want to be back in Hawaii. Like,
it's like in Lost, like, we have to go back.
Yeah, no, literally. That's how she felt. That's really, really how she felt. She was like, I don't know, like I felt disconnected from like my friends and my family that I've known in New York, but like the weather was always perfect, and like I had my day job that I would just work from home at, and then I would go out and snorkel, and
you just get so complacent in
yeah
Hawaii. It's
yeah
just like, 7 years goes by.
Totally.
Don't even notice that.
What brought you back?
My husband died.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. What happened?
So that's a whole nother story, and
wow.
that I won't get into.
Yeah, totally.
That's what brought me back. I was living in paradise. Now I live back with my parents.
Oh my god!
But I have back to having New York City, which is such a great thing because when I would travel from Hawaii to New York, I would get to do all the rooms and just felt like I could pack in so much comedy experience versus what you could get in Hawaii, right? Like you could do 6 rooms if you wanted to a day, pretty much in New York City, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that was, I would do that when I would come back. So
because in Hawaii it's very sparse.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what's going on at the time, but it could be anywhere from like 2 to 5 a week that you get to.
Yeah, totally.
You get more time on stage though.
Yeah.
When you're up, but
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm back and I've been, we were in my festival that I did.
Yeah, I was in your festival.
That was something I always wanted to do.
Yeah, it was a killer show. It was awesome.
Thank you. Yeah,
I was glad
how
really good show. You produce good shows. I've done a different show that you've produced that was super fun. That was on St. Patrick's Day. That was super fun. The crowd was just wasted, which is always fun as a comedian. Like the only way to combat that is by like going into the crowd and being like, all right, well, you're wasted. What's happening here?
Yeah. I do produce good shows. That wasn't one of the better shows that I produced. Like, I would say like 90%. Sometimes you have a miss, like, or you just do something wrong or you mess up. And if you know what you did, then it's like you can still be confident that you're going to be good.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was some mistakes that I made there.
No, it's
with
fine.
the St. Patrick's Day show, but
no, it was great.
That's comedy. That's the show.
That's what
like,
it is.
I mean, and that's also what the most recent one I did. They were supposed to have the lights and the sound and everything for me, and none of it was there. I had to run home and get my own amp, and like God. This is like the one where we did the secret show, that really nice room. It was that room.
Oh my
like
God.
where I was supposed to have it all taken care of, and it was like, but the show must go on. What are you going to do? Like as I got closer, I was like, I'm just going to run back home as quick as I can.
Wow,
and
you just got to do it,
and we did it, and it was something.
Yeah. So you're living back now in Westchester.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay. Let's just go into
food stuff.
Yeah, food stuff dieting. When was the concept of dieting first introduced to you? Like when did you even have a concept of what a diet was or the need to lose weight, anything like that?
My mother was always on a diet from the time I could remember, like 3, 4, I guess. Like she was always on a diet or needed to be on a diet or had just ruined her diet. There was a diet cycle, going. She did Weight Watchers a lot, but she did other things too. And so, she was always on a diet.
Is she and we don't have to talk about your mom so much, but I'm curious, is she a yo-yo dieter, or is she someone that always weighed more on the thin side or the heavier side?
The heavier side, but like I think when she was younger, when I look back at pictures when I was younger and she was saying she was fat, like she really wasn't fat.
Yeah.
But that like manifestation of seeing that, it's just like I watched her get bigger and bigger and bigger, and now she's actually for the first time ever starting to get thinner. But it was just she was a lot of hate, that I would see like when she would look in the mirror. And so if she said she was fat, then I thought she must be fat.
Right, that's what she's saying.
But when I look at pictures, I'm like, you have different perspective, and I'm like, she was like beautiful, or like she's 150 pounds there. Right. I mean, she wasn't fat, like
right. And it's crazy because like 150 pounds now I feel like is so different compared to like 150 pounds a few decades ago. Like, societal standards all change and all that kind of stuff comes into play. But wow. Okay. Yeah. And that's common that I hear on this podcast is people coming on and saying, well, my mom was always on a diet. So would she like cook for the family healthy, or was it like she cooked separately for herself and you guys ate? Like
my dad always actually cooked
for
us. I mean, she would also always take us to McDonald's and to whatever for whenever we like, if there was any extracurricular, like there was no like healthy, this is what healthy food is, or any kind of knowledge of that. And then like for like Halloween candy, like Halloween was always a really bad time for her. It still is. Like because she would eat most of our candy.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She would eat most of the candy and would buy it for weeks before, would be buying the candy at the store and then just like, you know,
totally.
So like binge eating at night, like late at night,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. And then I know there was a period where she was doing like a whole like case of Coke, a Diet Coke, a day, like when she was working in the city, like, and then that was like, whoa, so much aspartame, you know?
That's like smoking a pack a day. Like it's just the habitual, just addictiveness of it.
Right. I think it started to increase to even in other cases.
Yeah.
At some point, I think she really was like, okay, this Diet Coke thing is a problem.
I'm like fermenting my insides. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Wow. Okay. Do you have any siblings?
I have one sister.
Oh, you have a sister, older or younger? Younger sister. By how much younger is she?
Like 4 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a pretty good distance in between siblings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because like you're not in high school at the same time kind of thing. Like were you two naturally thin, like, or like did you take after which parent did you take after? Like what did your parents sort of look like? You said your mom weighed on the heavier side. What about dad?
My dad is like 6'2", was athlete, like baseball, you know, played college baseball, played like minor league baseball briefly. So he was an athlete, and I was just a very small, like, I was always on the like shortest, you know, I was usually like the shortest and most, like I was like 35 pounds in third grade. You know what I mean? Like
tiny girl.
My daughter's in second grade and she's like 80 pounds, you know, like she's just totally built different than me. And my sister was in relation to the same age, was definitely bigger, you know, was bigger than me.
Did you find that you and your sister like compared yourselves to each other?
No.
Yeah.
No. I think we both just knew we didn't want to be like my mom.
Right.
Like that was for sure, that we didn't want to be like we didn't want to be fat like her. There was a lot of, you know, I think fat phobia for sure. That we were like, we can't. And there were things that my mom did around food that were like very controlling, you know, like when we would all eat, like we would be done and then she would make us sit at the table like while she finished, and she would be so slow, and like she would eat her mashed potatoes like spoon down like it was ice cream, and be like,
oh yeah.
You know, she would like sometimes like regress to being like a 5-year-old sometimes when she would eat. It was like a strange
that's interesting
phenomenon.
Having everybody sit at the table until everybody's done.
And your kids, you're just like, we're done. Like we're ready to go, and we just want to get out of here.
Interesting.
But there was no comments about our bodies or like you're fat or like you need to, you know. I mean, my mom's mother was always telling her either she was too thin and she needed to eat more, or she was too fat. And so I always heard her mother tell her she was fat.
Yeah.
And so I saw where that came from, and she would come after us, that we just always need to eat, would always be trying to feed us.
Totally.
So I know where it came from, you know. I think I was lucky that my parents never made me finish my plate. Like, we're never the type of people that said, did your parents make you finish the plate?
We were plate finishers for sure.
Right. So like, I was telling you, I'm a hypnotist too, right? Yes. So I've helped a lot of people with like just releasing weight and having more, like, there's no dieting like at all, you know, like, and I don't know what I was saying.
You brought up how your mom like had everybody sit at the table, and like, and once she was done, then you guys can leave. And that God is talking about how you're a hypnotist, which I find so interesting. I only did like a legit like hypnotherapy session once. It was pre-pandemic. It was probably like 2018, 2019, because I started comedy in 2018.
Okay.
But something that I always struggled with and still do struggle with to a certain degree, but I'm better with now, is stage fright. Like even just like the concept of like mics being on, the video being on, and I'm like, I clam up, you know? So I did this one hypnotherapy session. It was on Zoom. It was with some lady in Australia, and even on Zoom, I feel like it was like super effective. Like it felt like our session was 5 minutes and it had been an hour. It's crazy.
And then do you now feel excitement? Did you transform that feeling into a feeling of excitement, because it's similar, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like I need, honestly, to do more sessions, because I still have this feeling of anxiousness. And I do think being anxious before getting on stage is good to a certain degree, because like, you know, it keeps you ready, keeps you like wanting to like, you know, do the best that you can do. And I think that that's what that's rooted in. But I have like, when I get nervous, I have like an amnesia where I forget, like, I feel like I always have to write keywords on my hand of my set, so that it's like, if I do get lost, like I can reference back.
Right.
You know? And so that's something with the stage fright that I want to conquer better. And yeah, so I actually always think about like maybe doing more hypnotherapy. But I've heard people going to hypnotists for a ton of stuff, like stopping smoking or helping with the diet. So people have come to you in the past to like work on their food
breaking
intake.
It's basically breaking that connection between food or whatever it is and it giving you pleasure.
Okay.
And realizing that it's not actually giving you pleasure at all. And that undoes that brainwashing. Like, and I mean, I've used hypnosis for everything. For, you know, I don't drink alcohol, but I used to drink a lot of alcohol, and I have I have absolutely no desire to put the poison in my body. Like the way that I see it, the way that I frame it. And so with like what you're talking about, stage fright, reframing it as I'm excited. Like immediately when those feelings start to come on, it's like, okay, excitement feels the same way. Your heart is racing. You're feeling that increase in adrenaline, you know?
Yeah.
And so training yourself over and over and over, I feel so excited. I'm going to kill it. I'm going to crush it. I'm going to do so good. I can't wait to go up on the stage. I'm so excited. Like and just over and over and over and over, just like reprogramming it with repetition. Yeah. And not ever using that that N word.
Yeah.
I don't let my daughter ever use that word before she goes on stage, and it's worked so well. She's a dancer. It's worked so well for her.
Yeah. You know what's so funny is Joe has this bit where he will be hanging out before a mic or before a show, and he goes, "Oof, I'm nervous." And I go, "Stop. My lizard brain doesn't know you're being satirical. Like, I hear you say, 'Oh, I'm nervous,' and I'm getting nervous. So please stop." Like, it's so funny that you just referred to that as like the N word.
Yeah.
Because that like like when it's all energy. So it's like, if like you're feeling nervous, I'm going to feel that, you know?
Right.
And so like,
it's all vibes. Everything is
100%. So like, even him like making fun and just doing that as a bit, I'm like, I got to get away from you.
Like, I would have to put headphones in, and then I'm just like, I'm fucking excited. I'm so excited. Like, it's honestly like just
I'm going to
really
do that more. I'm going to try to like,
because you are excited.
Yeah.
That's how you know how good it feels when you get it off stage and you just crushed it and everyone was like, that is what we're addicted to as comedians. We're addicted to that high, right?
Yeah.
So that feeling before, it's excitement to get that high, to get that drug. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so true.
And then using always statements in a positive way, like, just like, I always kill it, whether it's true or not. Telling yourself that before you go up is key. You know, there's no reason not to tell yourself a better lie, right? Like, so like with food, you can say like, "Oh, I could eat a cow." No, you can't.
Yeah.
Like, you can't eat a cow. Like, so it's like, say better things to ourselves and use better words to reprogram.
Yes, I feel like I've gotten to this place where I see a photo of myself, or like I watch tape back of myself, and it's like, without even really processing what I'm looking at or how I feel about myself, my gut reaction is to say, "Oh, disgusting, turn it off." My gut reaction is to be mean, because that's all I've known. That's being nasty to myself and not liking the way that I look is literally all I've known. And I've been in therapy for years about it, and I make great progress and good headway with my therapist about it. But oh my gosh, it really is breaking that cycle, because there probably is a little bit of pleasure in that somewhere for me, which is why I keep doing it.
Well, it's a loop. It's your programming. It's your programming. So we have to literally rewire. And I've done this too because I was the same way. I mean, all of us were like, right, based on what I told you about my mom, right? So it's like, you know, I never thought that I was pretty like, you know, I always thought that I was ugly for, you know, and I don't think that now, like, because I tell myself every time I see myself in the mirror, like, you're beautiful. I love you. I'm lovable. And I repeat it over and over and over again. And I've been doing that for years, reprogramming. Like, I've used like black eraser markers and wrote on my mirror, you know, like, you are beautiful, like, you are kind, like, just repeating it over like at least 10, 15 times is key. Like, if you can even do that twice a day, you're going to reprogram. And then what happens one day, you're at a party or you're somewhere and you catch your reflection and that normal gut feeling to say something bad or to not like what you see, it's not there. And actually the first thought is like, I'm lovable, I'm beautiful. And you just feel it and you're like, what? This really works. Oh my God. I have new pathways.
That's what it really is. It's the new pathways. And I find that it's hard to remember to do that. It's hard to remember to look in the mirror and say to yourself, like, I'm lovable. I like myself. It's hard to remember to do that. Like, I could have a streak of like waking up and like meditating. I have this 10-minute meditation that I do when I'm feeling really bad. Like, when I wake up in the morning and I just am presented with dread from like the moment I wake up to open up my eyes. And that comes on from like work stressors. It comes on when I have a busy day ahead. So I have this, it's literally called work dread is like the meditation that I do. And I do it because it's like it's that or Xanax, you know.
I was thinking, well, microdosing is a little Xanax too. It's like it's all getting out of the feeling, like whatever we can do to take the smallest amount of. And I was thinking weed too, you know, because weed also, when I'm feeling PMSing and I notice, wow, because that's when I notice my first thoughts are like I'm fat. Like, and I would. It took me a while to realize, you know, oh, wow, I always think that I'm fat whenever I'm PMSing. But then when I'm not, I'm like, oh, I'm actually not fat.
Right. Like, it's like just how I feel right now. Maybe I am holding a little bit more water.
Right.
But
you
like,
know,
that makes no difference. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on like pharmaceuticals treating like, not mental disorders, because like if you were to describe what you just described, I feel like a doctor or a therapist or a psychiatrist would be like, oh, that sounds like the symptoms of PMDD, which is like a depressive thing that can hit before your period. But it's like, that all just feels like natural stuff that, and I'm not trying to be like anti-pharmaceuticals because like people need it. I've needed it in the past, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, I don't know, a little 10-minute meditation can be what I need to not.
Absolutely. I think like maybe most of the month the 10-minute meditation works, and then sometimes that feeling of dread, which can come on in seasonally when it gets, you know, dark so early and it's so cold and you're just like, oh, there's 6 more months of this ahead, you know?
Yeah.
Like right now we're in the happy light, you know, stage that little bit of Xanax or weed or both, you know, just a small amount to start, and then the meditation, and then seeing where you're at and if you feel better. And then because if you can feel a little better, then you can use those positive things. You can take those actions to keep it going. You don't need to just like keep relying on it. And sometimes it motivates you to do the meditation also. Yeah. Like to be able to do it.
I think it's all about having a good tool belt, because the whole point of me bringing up the meditation is, you know, I realized this morning I forgot to do it. Like I had just as much dread this morning, but I forgot to do it. Instead, I woke up and I just got in the shower. I didn't even think, like, even though literally the first thing I've been doing for the past 5 days has been getting up and listening to that damn meditation. So when it comes to looking in the mirror and trying to like carve out these new neural pathways, it's hard to remember. It's almost like you need to
write on the mirror. You really need to write on. That's the only way I was able to do it, was writing on the mirror. I don't need the writing on the mirror anymore, but I still do it. Like there's times where I just will write like I'm lovable because I've stopped saying it, and I'm like, okay, you know. And then you could be in a relationship, whatever, you know, someone could be feeding you toxic, thoughts and beliefs about yourself, as well. And you could decide to start to take and be reprogrammed, so it's,
I feel like this notion of programming, reprogramming, new neural pathways, that is such new language. That is not something that we talked about even 10 years ago. And if you did talk about it 10 years ago, you sounded so crazy.
I was talking about it 10 years ago, but yeah.
You probably see people talk about it now and you're like, you said I was crazy back then when I was talking about it.
Right. It's like gratitude. I don't know if you do gratitude, gratitude lists too. That can make you go into a good feeling state. So sometimes I'm just like, I'm gonna sit here and think of or write down 100 things that I'm grateful for, or I'm gonna set a timer for 5 minutes and write down as many things as I can. See if I can get to 100. In 5 minutes. And I always go to my body, my eyesight, my digestion. It's the greatest place to just go for things to be grateful for that are right there in the moment. And you realize my knees are working, my ankle joints, my toes, all these those are all worth millions of dollars. 100%. So we're already.
Yeah. When I feel like I talk about how much I dislike myself and how much I wish I was different, I all of a sudden will have this light bulb moment where it's bitch, you could be a fucking burn victim. You could have your whole face melted off in a horrible accident or something like that. What are you complaining about? So the gratitude is so it really is helpful. And I remember the first time I heard, I think my friend told me, he's the CEO of my former company said the one thing that keeps me going every day is just waking up and thinking of all these things I'm grateful for and having gratitude. And I thought that's bullshit. And then I tried it and I was like, oh yeah, no,
it's a great tool.
Yeah. It's I owe all this money to fucking all these different bills, but that's all stuff that doesn't matter. Even though it matters, it doesn't
me too,
matter.
But it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I'm okay right now.
Yeah,
I'm here
totally.
with you. It's and it's there's a trade sometimes of time that really I want that trade. I don't want to work as much sometimes, and totally. So I'll be broke. But
yeah,
I'm free and I'm feeling good.
I'm broke, but I'm free.
But you have to love yourself. That's is always hard. Starting with to have any change. It's I love my stomach. I love my body so much that I just love feeding it healthy, nutritious, fruits and vegetables and breaking free from that sugar monster that is there. And so I also feel there's that element with food that everybody this is the same for alcohol. I used to believe alcohol was genetic and you can have an addictive personality, and I thought I had all of those things. And then Alan Carr, have you heard of Alan Carr?
I have heard of
The Easy
Carr.
Way. So he's got one for sugar I've listened to. He's got one for gambling I've done. He's got one for alcohol.
You've done the whole
and they work.
Rolodex.
They work.
Yeah.
And he helps just deprogram and undo the brainwashing of those connections to seeing those things as giving you pleasure.
Yeah.
When they're not, and so that you reach out for good fruits and vegetables. That's just what you want to give yourself.
Yeah, it's what you gravitate towards.
And you starve that monster, that sugar monster that once you have some of it, it wants more. It's the yeast inside is
yeah, no, totally,
literally it's a monster.
Yeah.
It's the same with alcohol. It's once you start to have some, it's going to make you thirsty for more.
Yeah.
Every single human, it doesn't matter. Some people are better at controlling it, but it's everyone. It's alcohol, and its effect on humans is the same across the board.
Well, something that Nikki Glazer has said before, she's back when she hasn't drank in 10, 12 years, something like that. And she talks about how when she used to drink, she would sober say, I'm going to go out and I'm going to have a drink, maybe two.
Right.
And then I have the 2 drinks, and then drunk me or tipsy me is I can have another, and that's sort of how it can snowball and go. And I drink, but I feel like I'm constantly in my mind wondering am I gonna do this for the rest of my life, but then I think wine nights with the girls, but then it's can I sit and participate in a wine night and not drink? People do it.
Well, especially with the non-alcoholic wines now.
Yeah, totally.
And that's what I love is that I do just want I want the social experience. I want the fun. I want the relaxation. I want all of those things. It's not actually the poison that I want. So now that there's all these non-alcoholic beers, I love the taste of beer. I always have. So I always used to only have O'Doul's, and it was like, okay, good enough. You know, it's not. I'll still have a nice ice cold O'Doul's. It will like totally hit the spot. And once it's in a glass, it looks like everybody else's drink.
Yep.
And but now there's wine, there's vodka, there's gin, it's becoming more and more and more.
There actually
popular.
I'm so sad to see it go. I guess they couldn't afford the rent anymore, but near here there was a non-alcoholic liquor store.
Wow.
So it was just a whole store of like you walk in and it's all, but like
that's daring.
Yeah.
That's brave.
And like I forget what it's called. It starts with a B, but they're all over. There's like a shop in the West Village.
Wow,
and I was like really excited to see a Williamsburg shop. And then I walked by it the other day and I'm like, oh, it's all boarded up, you know?
Yeah, that's what I said. That's daring. I mean, it might be a little ahead of the times, but I think it's...
But Gen Z doesn't, because I think the younger generation, I mean, and you probably, well, your daughter's still young, so I don't know. But sorry, I'm getting excited. I feel like just as we said, like this notion of deprogramming, we have so much more language that we didn't have before that now as adults we have. Whereas like Gen Z was born into the world with this information. And so like they're less into doing things like drinking and numbing out. Like they're way more into weed. They're way more just into like general sobriety because they're like not disillusioned by like millennials. I'm a millennial. I feel like millennials had this like work hard, play hard, and you'll have the best life ever. And Gen Z is like, no, you worked hard, you play hard, and now you have like insurmountable student loan debt and a drinking problem, and we're not into that. We're just gonna like smoke our vapes and try our best to not get a job that is gonna make us, suicidal.
Maybe. I mean, I think they're very controlled too by advertising and TikTok and like the apps, and just like I think that's what Alan Carr helps do is like to see, like for alcohol, for example, you can't go more than maybe 2 minutes of watching TV and not see someone drinking 1,000%. On TV. You can't even go on the street. We will see advertisements everywhere, and you don't even realize it's subliminally, like right there, like drink. It's the only thing where people will question you. Why aren't you drinking? Like why aren't you poisoning yourself right now? And so it's like I realized by listening to that book that it was the social aspect that I wanted. It was that relaxation, like I was saying. It was a nice cold drink and beverage to, like soothe my throat and just like feel like, that cultural experience. But it wasn't the like extra 30 pounds and rising blood pressure and, doing things that I didn't really want to do because I was literally inebriated, retarded, like making myself like a retarded person. Literally. That's what alcohol does. It's ethanol. And he just makes all these great comparisons to things. Then he's like, you wouldn't, when you have a fever, be like, I need more fever. Give me more fever.
No, I've heard that book is like so good for drinking, for smoking, for gambling,
for sugar. Yeah, for it. So.
How long ago did you read that book or listen to that book?
So I guess it was September 2020. So so I'm going on 4 years. I did AA for like 8 years. Before I was even legal to drink alcohol, like I was in AA.
Wow.
That's how much. I mean, I was drinking since I was like 2. Like I drank my dad's beer. Like I loved the taste of beer always. I mean, I'm a real, and it's everyone around me drinks and not my mom anymore. So it's like my dad drinks, my mom eats. I always said that there's a totally both sugar though. Interesting and both.
It all breaks down to sugar.
I will say, Kelly, are you sick of seeing diabetes commercials that have really beautiful people?
I'm sick of all medication commercials with really beautiful people. I feel like the only commercials that should have really beautiful people in it are like Prep.
Like prep selling prep like clothes or something.
No, PrEP, like the HIV medication that gay people take before, like, if you're gonna have a night out, take a PrEP before to like help yourself to not get HIV.
That one is allowed to have beautiful people.
Everyone else, like,
because you're beautiful, but you don't want to spread HIV.
Yeah, no, the people that are depressed in commercials for depressed people are like,
they're gorgeous.
Some forlorn woman that barely has a bag under her eye,
She's riding a horse on the beach.
Yeah.
They're like going, it's like, sorry, you can't go to space today.
It's like, oh, you're wearing sweatpants, but those are clean. Like,
and they're from Lululemon.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there isn't like crustiness on your sweatpants. Like, I don't believe that you're actually depressed. No, it's crazy. And it's like all because beautiful people sell you stuff. So it's just like, take it, inject it. That's how you fix it, is by taking these pharmaceuticals, not by, not eating Taco Bell. And Taco Bell's delicious. I fucking love Taco Bell. But, I mean, if you eat Taco Bell every day, you're going to really feel not great.
Shitty. You're going to feel shitty. Real shitty.
Yeah. And, it's Joe and I were joking because, was it last night or the night before? Our day just got super busy and, like, we were starving by the end of the day. And it was like late, and he's like, okay, let's order Taco Bell. And I don't know what happened, but we ordered it. And then like the app or whatever canceled the order. And I was like,
and then it was too late to get anything.
Well, it was like, I said to him, I was like, this was the universe intervening.
Okay.
Like, why would the app cancel it? So and I was like, honestly,
you're getting another chance to make a better choice.
Yeah.
What you're saying. You're
I was like,
what? I already am having the buyer's remorse on this.
Yeah, totally.
For my body.
Yeah.
Like,
and I was
don't
like,
want to feed my body this. It's just dog. It's worse than dog food, is from what they say. And
I know.
It's like the letters. You know how they like grade diamonds and they grade food. I think I remember reading that somewhere that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Taco Bell's meat was like worse than what they put in dog food.
Oh,
like,
good.
Like, it was like really like
good. Yeah, Finney's Farmer's Dog sometimes is more expensive than like some fast foods.
So that, reprogramming yourself to see and making those mental switches it just changes it without having to control it. You were asking me about diets, though. I do want to say, I wrote some of the funny ones down that I've done.
Please.
I've done the cantaloupe diet.
Okay, cantaloupe diet.
I've done a grapefruit diet.
Yep.
It's like I did that until I had like sores in my mouth.
Yep.
So much acid, right?
Yeah.
I did Atkins until I passed out because I needed carbs.
Yeah, Atkins is just keto now.
Yeah, but it was like, that is definitely not for everybody.
Yeah,
and especially if you're gonna play sports and you're in high school. It's not really.
You're a growing woman. Yeah,
you're running back and forth like on a court or.
Yeah.
Let's do Atkins.
Yeah.
Somebody called me fat.
Yep.
I think I did cornflakes.
Cornflake. There definitely
that
was
got me
like
constipated.
A Special K diet.
Maybe it was Special K.
Yeah.
Special K is like cornflakes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was Special K.
Cornflake, yes. But yeah, Special K literally their commercials used to be like the Special K diet, which was like a bowl of Special K in the morning, a bowl of Special K for lunch, with like a low fat milk, and then like a sensible dinner, and that was the fucking diet. And I do it, of course,
or a Special K for dinner if you really are ambitious,
really committed.
Because any high schooler that's doing the Special K diet is just doing Special K for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Absolutely.
You're not gonna ruin it on dinner.
No, why would I break my streak?
Because the guy that I like is gonna ask me out if I stay on the Special K diet.
Yep.
That's
my diet consists of cornflakes and freeze-dried strawberries.
Yeah, that one got me constipated.
Yeah.
And then Atkins made me pass out. And then Weight Watchers, as in college, from all the drinking and whatnot, I definitely gained some weight. And I was like, I'm going to do Weight Watchers with my mom, because my mom was always going to Weight Watchers and doing the points, and she had the food. And even though I knew that Weight Watchers, like that, if you look at the back on the ingredients, had like partially hydrogenated oils, which is trans fats, and all these like things that you don't want. I knew that, but I was just like, I'll just do this thing with my mom we'll bond.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe really at that time I was still thinking, I wasn't a hypnotist yet. I was still thinking, oh, maybe I can control her by going with her. It'll keep her accountable, and then she'll just get to that. You know, you think someone's going to get over like a hump, and then they're like set free. But if they don't start, like I said, with the loving themselves, it's going to just go right back.
But your motivation for going to Weight Watchers was to keep your mom on track.
Well, I was like, oh, I need to lose some weight too.
Right.
But yeah,
it was like a double-sided coin.
Yeah, because I thought that Weight Watchers was stupid, like I said, because of the food and what I knew what was in it, like, and how they make you buy the food, you know, the whole thing. Their ingredients suck. Like, that's not. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I got rejected from Weight Watchers. Like, I wasn't overweight enough.
No.
And it felt so hard. Well, I remember I sat in the car crying. I was like, well, can I at least like audit it? Or like,
sit.
You know, sit for it, because I'm gonna do the points. I was doing whatever they're, you know, they had like a baseline thing to do whatever, and I was like, I'm just gonna do that. And they were like, no.
Rejected from a Weight Watchers meeting?
I got rejected from a Weight Watchers meeting.
Oh my gosh. My mind is blown.
They shamed me.
Yeah, because when you think about it now, if you...
And I was not anorexic weight. I wasn't like 95 pounds. You know, I was like maybe 130 pounds or something.
Yeah.
Like for whatever that was, it with being 5'4" and 134 pounds or whatever, you know.
So they basically were like,
nope.
Listen up here, skinny bitch. You don't have weight to lose, so there's the fucking door.
Yeah.
Now it would be like, like, I feel like now you could walk into, I mean, I haven't been in a Weight Watchers meeting in years, but like, I feel like now you could walk into a Weight Watchers meeting and be like, I'm looking to maintain this weight, and they would be like, yeah, of course, come in. You know, I don't know.
I'm actually, you got me interested, because it was a while, you know, a long time ago, but that stayed with me. That has stayed. That rejection, you know, rejection sucks. Like, and that's one of the best things about being a comedian, because that anxiety we were talking about, whatever those feelings is, it conditions us and desensitizes us to be like rejected, and to actually make that a good thing, because it makes us it strengthens our character, our resilience, where you don't let other people affect you. You're like, I'm in control of how I feel. You know, you could say whatever, and maybe I'll even find it funny, but that was a rejection that has definitely stayed with me.
Well, it's also a rejection that, especially at the time, that is a rejection that you will get zero empathy for, because you were rejected for being too skinny. Like anybody is gonna want to shed a tear for you over that. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, your life is so hard, you were so skinny.
They wouldn't let you bond with your mom and lose weight.
Yeah,
they made me go sit in the car.
It's just like an impossible situation to be in, when in reality you're just a girl that is just like feeling like she does want to lose weight, wants to bond with her mom, she's worried about her mom. It's just like such a clusterfuck of emotions, and they told you to go fuck yourself. So you've never sat through a Weight Watchers meeting?
No, they wouldn't let me in.
I was excited to ask you about it, because having been somebody that went through 8 years of AA, I have this joke where I'm like, I've been to both Alcoholics Anonymous and Weight Watchers meetings, and literally the way that the substances are talked about are the fucking same. It is the same. Now, when I was in, I wasn't in AA. My parents had.
So you went to Al-Anon or
no?
Alateen?
So I was like a really young kid, and so like my parents didn't have a babysitter, so I would just go with them to the meeting. So I would just sit and listen to everybody. Mm-hmm. So I would like be in an AA meeting, but I was like a child, and so that's why I, you know, kind of I know what people talk about in those meetings, because I was there, and I remember. You know, like that happens when you're a kid. I can't even remember how old I was, you know, young. And then I'm like a teenager going to Weight Watchers meetings, and I'm sitting there thinking like, this feels oddly familiar, the way that they're talking about food. Like just like the feeling of anger when you don't have it, the extreme lengths that you go to get it. Like it is so similar. And when I was in my 20s, I went to Weight Watchers with my when I was working in Manhattan. My friend's boss knew the former CEO of Weight Watchers, or the then CEO of Weight Watchers at the time, and so we got into the meetings for like a discount, and so I was doing Weight Watchers with them, and my friend Tori was like without me even saying anything, she's like, why did that feel like a room full of addicts like talking about
sugar
their
and
fix.
how much they wanna,
yeah.
But what's up with the weigh-in too? That's like
Oh
a shame thing. Like they're like, that makes you not want to go to the meeting if you know you didn't meet your goal. You're just like,
especially because even if I mean, the weigh-in is less of a public spectacle now than what it was in the early 2000s when people would go to these Weight Watchers meetings. But even if it's individual and you go up to like the one lady and no one's watching you what you're doing, it's very apparent whether you've lost weight or whether you haven't to the rest of the room, because if you get on the scale and you've gained weight, it's just like, like, okay, you have a 5-pound weight gain this week, and then the next lady, and then the next lady is over at the table. 10-pound weight loss for this week.
Give me my pin.
Yeah,
give me my flare. Give me my
oh my god,
my lost weight flare.
Dude, I can't throw anything away. I probably have so many of those Weight Watcher pins. Like,
so that's like in AA, the chips, the poker chips, right?
Literally,
like you get your white chip on the first day, and then they have like the 3-month chip. Some of these ones in 6 months. And
yep. It's literally the same.
Like, give me my flare. I want to put it into this, my pride into it.
Yeah, so it's like it's the weigh-ins are brutal, man. Oh gosh, God, what would be the weigh-in equivalent for AA? I can't think of one.
Well, just when they ask people how long they have, and so
that's true.
if you went out and you and everyone has known you and you've had like 2 years and you recently went out, when they go around the room, not every room does that, but when they do, right, and then they're like, how do you have this much time? You have a choice in that moment to lie and say, oh no, it's my 2 years, like whatever you normally have, so you don't have to like deal with anybody, because and you're just like, I don't know, I'm here, I have a desire to stop drinking, that's the only required for membership, right? So, or if you're gonna come out and be like, I'm gonna go pick up a white chip, and then everyone sees that, oh my god,
Did you have instances like that in your stint in AA?
Totally. Totally, definitely, like early on, the first time going in, and then after the 8 years, I also like drank for like 9 months and was like, it got right back to where just where you're doing things that like you shouldn't, like you should never drive if you've been drinking, but your brain says that it's okay. And so you got to do this other thing. You gotta go. You gotta drive. It's like it's there. Bad decision making, and not that I got a DUI, but just like that, I realized like very quickly, if you've acknowledged a problem before, and you're relapsing, it's a lot easier to see it again and to be like, okay, I felt, and now that I listen to Alan Carr, my whole view is like, oh, I don't need those meetings. Like, I don't need like, I mean, they were great for what they were, and and it's the same thing probably about Weight Watchers, like for the people that it helped while it helped them, great, but like that was just putting a Band-Aid over something. I mean, it wasn't, again, going back to that self-love and for yourself, where you're completely unraveled from that attachment and addiction of seeing it as giving you pleasure. And when you don't see it as giving you pleasure anymore, there's no need for it.
Totally. Well, I mean, I think something about AA is the community that you have, because you go to these meetings and you see the same people, which is great. But then there's that other side of it, like what you just mentioned, the shame of like, am I going to sit here and no longer say 2 years? Am I going to sit here and say 2 days? Yeah,
I've lied. I lied. And I was like, I'm not gonna, or I just didn't go to those meetings really.
Right.
I just like, I'm not gonna go to that meeting and go out there. I'm not picking up a white chip. Not today.
Yeah.
And then there's ones where you say that going in, and then by the end you're like, I'm just gonna go pick up the white chip. Like, this is about me, and I don't really care what anyone else is thinking about me. Most people are thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be a positive. People are still that's how they're gonna react. They're not gonna really be like, I can't believe you drank, you dumb fuck. Like, they're gonna be like, oh my god,
Well, do you? Because I see this online, I've come across this where there are people that have dealt with being in cults, and they've compared AA and NA and those kinds of groups to cults, to a version of a cult. Do you have an opinion about that? Do you?
I mean, yeah, kind of. I mean, in a way, there's that cult-like, But what's different that makes it not a cult is that you can leave at any time, and they don't ask you for all of your possessions and belongings. So those, to me, are two major things of a cult. You're not asked to believe in a god. You're asked to believe in any god, any higher power that of your choosing. So there's definitely a lot of freedom. It's not a perfect program, but it did help a lot of people break free from that, and by doing those steps, also realizing that alcohol wasn't giving them pleasure.
Yeah.
It's that same undoing. And I found after a certain point, I just didn't even need to go to the meetings. I wasn't like, oh my God, now I need to. Now I was like, it cured me, until I just thought, oh, alcohol is going to give me pleasure again at some point years down, Like I went to meetings for like 3 years, but I was in that, like in an 8-year AA sober, where I would go to a meeting here or there, or where, I rarely was like, I wasn't working my 12th step.
Yeah. Did you ever work the steps?
I did. I worked all the 12 steps, and it was, I'll do anything. Like, it's a good experiment. You know, that was my take on it. I was like, listen, I've been drinking. I believe I have an open mind. Why not work all these 12 steps and just see what happens? And if I still want to drink, then I'll drink. It's still going to be there for me. And that's always the thing. It's right there. It's not going anywhere.
Always be there.
Like, it's.
Are you at a place now with alcohol where if you were to, for some reason, have a drink, would you feel like you have to reset a clock in your head, or you've broken a sobriety? Like, where are you with that?
No, like if I accidentally had something where I thought it was an NA beer, and it was like no, I wouldn't at all. I would be like, oh, that was a mistake, you know, and oopsie, and I would notice the effects of it on me. And I would probably notice a headache after that was wearing off, and then actually I think that's happened maybe once or twice, but I didn't have a whole one, but I had some by accident, and I'll take a sip of someone's drink just to see what it tastes like. Like that's how it's not a whole 6.
Right.
Like I'll try a small sip, and usually I'm like, ooh, like
it's like
it's
horrendous.
Really different than when you're conditioned every day to drink that vodka or that Jack.
Oh, the conditioning is real.
I've watched so many people go from drinking a small amount to bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I've done it myself. It's like when you first go back to drinking, you're like, I'm just gonna have one, and you're fine doing that for a while. But you realize there's that immediate control that you have to think about it and really control it, because it's making you say, oh, have more, have more, have more. You're thirsty for more. It's fine.
Oh my God. Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, that's a really good place to be in. And yeah, I don't know, just this, it really is thrown in our faces. Like there are certain television shows where I watch where like even just watching the episode play out, like I feel like I need a drink when I watch it, because like
it's
that's
cueing you.
Yeah, it's a cue.
It's a cue. It's absolutely you've programmed, and it's cueing you to say time to have. And that's how hypnosis works with like people smoking cigarettes, and it's you realize that you have all these connections you've made. Like say you smoke cigarettes, and if you do that, you probably smoke a cigarette when you're talking on the phone, after a meal, while driving or walking the dogs, or like there's all these so those things are connected, and most people don't realize that. So by doing that, like Pavlov's dogs, right, rang the bell, gave the food, then he could just ring the bell and they would salivate for the food, right? So that's that conditioning, that programming. Oh, if I'm driving my car, the brain says have a cigarette over and over and over and over and over until you satisfy that. That's almost completely unconscious at that point.
Completely.
But when you just make that conscious decision and go through this process of disconnecting them and then replacing, it's amazing. It's not there anymore.
Yeah. Hypnotherapy is so interesting to me. I think it's.
I went to talk therapy, and I've done so much hypnosis for so long, and it's like hypnosis is the quickest fix, and it gets to the root of the problem.
Well, I discovered when I just in that one hypnotherapy session that I did for stage fright, I don't know how she got me to where I went to, but I discovered like a real root issue as to why I feel nervous on stage.
From your childhood?
From my childhood.
Exactly. What was it? Do you mind sharing?
Yeah, it was, I always had this and still do have this desire to be famous, which sounds way worse.
No, I do too. I've always had it.
Yeah.
Since I was a child.
With like, I did by any means necessary. And I love music and I love singing. I'm a terrible singer. Like I cannot hold a tune. I'm a very, very bad singer. But there was a talent show that came about when I was in elementary school. I was in like 5th grade. And I don't know what, the desire to perform got me to sign up for the talent show. And I just remember my mom being like, what the fuck is this? Like, she didn't tell me to my face that you're not good, but like she wouldn't encourage it. And I felt like she was kind of embarrassed there, like on the night of the talent show. And, you know, no one got me flowers or anything for performing, all stuff that I didn't realize that I needed at the time. It wasn't like I sat there upset and forlorn that like my mom I didn't even register that my mom wasn't being supportive, but it was in there because it came out in this like weird, in that space in between like being awake and falling asleep. That's what I accessed.
That's where you went back to. Your that's a big part of hypnosis is regressing to those.
I put myself
that first time where it happened.
Yeah. Like the theater the school that I went to, the theater was called the Little Theater. So I literally was like, I saw myself standing in the lobby of the Little Theater. I could smell the smells of the Little Theater, and I remember it's like I was there, like I was standing next to myself.
And she was giving you this sense like, well, if she doesn't believe in me, if she doesn't think that she seems nervous, she seems embarrassed, she seems like, then I should be nervous.
Yeah.
And I should not feel good about this.
Yeah.
That I'm doing this. Like,
I remember
but I want to do this thing, but.
Yeah. And I did it and I sucked. It was horrible. You know, I was so bad, but like, I still wanted to get up there and sing, you know?
Right.
No matter what.
And so my father was, you know, he told me I couldn't sing either. Like my whole life, he said, like, do not sing. You know, my sister could sing, but he said, do not sing. You can't carry a tune like you know. And my husband was a musician. And so I thought I couldn't sing. I had a horrible voice. And anytime I did sing, it sounded really like horrible. And I'd be offbeat. And it was like, because again, programming, that's what I was being told. So that was the message. Was that right? I suck. Don't sing. When you do sing, you sound horrible. You know? And my husband was like, listen, anybody can sing if you can find a song that's in your range, and I can show you how to stay on, you know, in rhythm. Tune and in rhythm. It's really not that hard. And I'm not this amazing singer, but what I realized was it was having songs in my range. And there was a couple times at my house where I've just been singing in a song. My dad was like, when did you learn to sing? And I'm like, maybe I could have always sang. Yeah. Maybe I could have been famous for singing if you had this song. But just gotten me, you know, instruction rather than saying you suck, saying you could do anything. And that's why I tell my daughters, like, I believe you could really do anything if you're passionate about it and you believe in yourself. Of course, some people have natural talent, and you know, you want to go, like, if you're 4 feet, you're not going to be this NBA basketball player. But with so many things you can teach, and if you just do enough repetitions, that's what programs those neural pathways. It's the repetition.
Absolutely. I was never like. I literally, like, as a child was told, like, it is best in life if you grow up to, like, be an accountant. Like,
right, me too.
You know, like, my mom is a nurse, and there is work in nursing. You will always have a job, you know? And, like, I literally couldn't fathom anything. Like, I shout out to nurses. I could never be me. Like, I couldn't do it. And, like, that's a whole thing in and of itself that, like, you have to work really, really hard to access. But I was never, you know, told that I could be or do anything.
Never.
The only person that ever really told me that was my grandparents, but that was also within reason. you know? And so I remember like having this, and if my mom heard this, or if I said this to my mom, she would say I'm crazy, that if you said you wanted to do this, we totally would have done it.
You could do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
We told you could do anything.
And I don't
why don't I remember it?
Yeah. Then
because my parents did tell me I could do anything, but sing. But
but sing. I remember like wanting to like do dance, and it being like, no, you're too tall, you're too bulky, you're a softball player. So I did softball, and like
whatever they thought you were.
Yeah, exactly.
You were fit. You should fit into.
And so like the notion of doing comedy was like, they literally.
Yeah.
I don't need my parents' approval, but it just so happened, it just so worked out that like, they were. I needed a ride to a show, and it was like far away, and I was home for Thanksgiving. Long story short, they ended up going to the show, and I just warned them. I was like, I don't know how this gig is going to be. I don't know if you're going to like this. And just, it was one of those things where all the stars are lined, and this show was fantastic, and I like had a killer set.
And they were like, wow, you're good at
and
this.
I remember my dad being like, you're good. Like, he was like, just completely couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And it was like the first time that I had validation for a creative endeavor from them. You know, it all roots back to your childhood.
Everything does. I mean, everything does go back there, and that's
literally
the thing. In hypnosis, it's like, is the, like what I said with my mom, is it the 5-year-old her that's eating at the dinner table, or the adult her? And it's, you know, and in hypnosis, it's always that 5-year-old or whatever that event that people go back to that's like so early. And some people don't get to it right away. And it's like, no, it's going to be earlier than that. Yeah. I've seen it with all different issues, men with erectile dysfunction and things, and it's like they go back and they peed their pants in class and were like embarrassed, and it's like this I'm not good enough thing started, and this so it's like the way we have these misfires in our brain that it's trying to it thinks it's protecting us.
Yes.
Saying, okay, I'm protecting you because you don't want to go out there and hurt yourself and do something that's
why as adults this self-exploration of our earlier selves is so important. And I feel like people that don't want to do that work think that it's people not wanting that people like me that like really enjoy exploring my inner child, that like, oh, I'm stuck in the past. But that
it's so you can be better in the future. In your current, literally in that one event, then that thing can be completely fixed. Like
Fully
a lot
agree.
of times with hypnosis, those things are, we go back to that event, you heal, you do this like this healing of this inner child, and like you're gonna take care of that, you're gonna give yourself that, that what you need, and you're fixed literally like after one session, versus you could spend 10 years talking to a therapist. Like I went to Catholic school, and in Catholic school I had this issue where I would cry if someone in authority like reprimanded me or treated me like unfairly, and it was really embarrassing because sometimes it would be like in school someone would just be like, stop talking, teacher, and I would be like welling up trying to like hold it back, and it was just so embarrassing. And then when I had jobs like as a bus girl at 13, I remember the boss saying something and me like crying, and him like then just being like, are you crying? Are you crying right now? And just
are you still like that?
No. So it was like I did years of talking about that amongst other things with my therapist, and never really got like, we did all these things like, well, just cry through it, but stay there, don't run away. You know what I mean? Because it was always like, I'm going to run away, and you don't want anybody to see you crying, and then you don't even get to speak up for yourself for what it is unfair, and you look like immature and infantile, and you feel like all that shame, and that it was just so easy to trigger that in me, and I wanted it to go away so bad. And I went back to a time in Catholic school, being like not having something, and then just like berating me in front of the class, and then I went back to another time where this kid was being spanked in pre-K. Like this kid, I guess the aide like knew the kid, but like we would all sit around in a circle, and she would like spank this kid, and like that was very disturbing to me, and I was always afraid I was gonna get spanked. And and then I built like this armor that I have that is like, so when I'm dealing with something in the situation that it comes up. That's what we did in the hypnosis session. And it's like, it's there. And that was the younger me. Like, I'm an adult and people can say, I mean, now people have said all sorts of stuff to me on stage and all, and all kinds, like,
yep.
It's cool to be able to, to heal something, but it was one session and it was completely gone. I never had that issue again. I mean, I'm still a sensitive person, but I'm not going to get triggered like that.
I feel like I am a little bit better with it, but I was the same way. The crying, almost not on command, but like, especially in like work situations.
Right, if a boss says something,
if
and
my boss says like, "Hey, get off your phone,"
right,
waterworks, like tears, or like even something as like, like, how you doing, like, how's this quarter been, and I'm like particularly stressed, like, forget it, and I'm like, I'm sorry, like, I don't know why I'm crying, like, I don't know why I can't have this conversation without crying like this, and like, I hate that it's looked at as immature and infantile and like you're not being professional, because it's like, I don't know why my body's doing this.
It's just an emotion.
Yeah.
And I've had that now too, but I don't feel like infantile anymore either. There are times, like even in the beginning of the podcast, there's a point, I don't know if people can find it, where like when I started to say something about my husband, I started to like well up for a second, and like, and if I had like I would be totally okay with that and not feel ashamed, and I would just love myself, and I would still be able to talk. That's something I got back, was my voice, because when I would well up and cry when a boss would say anything to me, I could not speak. I could not say anything.
My throat chakra is
closed
just closed.
And so now it's like about that feeling and like loving myself, and it's like maybe I'm just emotional, and there's more, PMS. There's a lot of hormones going around, and it's going to pass, and it's fun. Sometimes it's just funny. Like, okay, I'm starkly laughing one second, and then, you can be crying the next. And it's a beautiful thing. It's just an emotion.
Oh, that happens on this podcast all the time.
And when you could say that, it doesn't have the power of being embarrassed and this big thing. It's like, it's just an emotion. It's going to pass.
Yeah. So you also, I think you said you also do physical therapy?
Yes, I am also a physical therapist.
Yeah. So it's crazy that we could take something like, someone spraining their ankle or something happening where they then they'll get prescribed physical therapy, and it's not looked down upon. You don't look like you're crazy because you need to fix your knee or your ankle or anything. Right. And it's interesting that you work in these different spaces of emotional and physical well-being.
It's all about like hypnosis, yoga, physical therapy, and comedy are all about making people feel better.
Whole. Yes.
All about making people feel better than what they feel like when I first come in contact with them, whether it's yoga, hypnosis.
Yeah.
Comedy is now my like,
focus.
And I have this belief that one day also, because you don't know why you're doing things at different times, but you feel passionate about it. And I'm interested in cars right now, and I've been learning everything about cars, and I want to flip cars. Like last year I was really into gardening. Like I also just pick things, up, because you don't know where it's going. So there might be down the line where I do some kind of physical therapy, education tour, but I'm teaching it with such funny humor, and they're just like eating up all this material because it's so funny. I see that in the future, Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you psychic at all? Do you have any psychicness?
I think I am. I used to think that there was something wrong with me when I could sort of just know how someone was feeling, because I would feel it all over my body. And then that got co-opted by people saying that, if you say you're an empath, you're a narcissist,
it's sympathy pains. That was how I got into PT school. I was literally talking about, I was healing all these people with yoga because I could feel what they were feeling when they would walk in the room. I'd be like, what's wrong with your knee? And I was like, I got to know what's actually wrong with people. Like I could just feel their pain and would know exactly where it was in their body.
That's Dr. Drew talks about that. He talks about the intuitive nature of medicine. And I do think that I am a bit psychic, like outside of that. Like I took my little brother on a cruise because he graduated college. And so I was like,
that's nice of you.
I know. It took him a while. So I was like, you earned this. It was a Burt Kreischer.
Sounds like you earned this.
Burt Kreischer. It was like a Burt Kreischer cruise.
It was a networking opportunity for you, and you took your brother on it.
Well, he's like, my little brother is like,
which is a great cruise, by the way.
Oh, it was so fun.
I'm jealous.
It was so fun. Yeah. And like,
but I'm happy for you.
Yeah. And so anyways, I had this anxiety the entire fucking time. It didn't like eat me alive, but like I had this feeling of like someone is going to fall off of this boat. Like I felt
that urgent feeling, that feeling inside.
I felt it in my bones. Mm-hmm. And cruise came and went, nothing happened, and I was like, okay, that must have been anxiety. The same boat, the next weekend, the cruise goes out. It was like another themed cruise, only this time it was like for metal music. Mm-hmm. Someone went overboard.
About to get goosebumps.
Someone went overboard. I said, because I was texting my one friend.
Time's not linear.
Yeah, I said to my friend, I was like, Jude, I have this knowing. She's like, it's anxiety. It's anxiety. I sent her the article like the next week, and she's like, I can't believe it. And I'm like, I'm telling you, like I had this feeling.
Sense.
And you know, one other story I have is I have a day job, and we had this like work thing that we had to do out in Pennsylvania for some reason. That's where we all met up. And we were driving back to the city from this like retreat, whatever, out in Pennsylvania. And my two coworkers were in the front, and I was just like sitting in the back scrolling on my phone. Now, my two coworkers used to work together at a different company. So they were going back and forth, like talking about their other company. And one of them goes like, oh man, that guy was so nice. What was his name? I can't think of it. And in my head, clear as day, I just heard John, and I almost said it out loud. I almost said John, and I wish I had, because not 30 seconds later, one of them goes, John. His name was John. And I was like, guys, you're never going to believe.
Right. It's so satisfying when you say it.
I was like, oh, I so wish satisfying. I said it. Because I don't know where these people worked before, you know.
No,
and so,
you I heard it. Yeah. I've had that happen as well. But I've said it, and people are like.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man.
Like a phone rang in Albany. We were going to like lobby for, I think, weed or something. And I was like, she slipped and fell. She's not going to make it. I don't know. Like, where did that come from? And they were just like, this woman had just slipped and fell. And it was like there was an ambulance on the way.
I always talk about wanting to tap into that. Mm-hmm. But I know that the way to tap into it is just to align with what I need and feel. Like, and that goes into intuitive eating. That goes into, not feeding the sugar monster. Yeah. I think it's so cool though. Cause like you feel a little bit crazy. Like that whole thing of like being young and I mean, and part of it is probably trauma based, like a survival mechanism of like, oh, are mom and dad going to be fighting? You know, like my body probably preparing for that. Mm-hmm. But I do think on like a psychic level that also has played a part. I don't know.
It's also like interesting that your parents didn't like have you do every sport under the sun. You know,
yeah,
like that's
it was very. You just do softball.
That was it. That was you were given softball. And that was nothing else to do. You know. Yeah.
Well, I did try basketball once, and I don't.
Everybody sucks at everything when they first start, no matter what.
I did basketball for 2 seasons, and I still don't know the rules of basketball. Like, I've never known the rules of basketball. I would just blindly try to make shots. It was, I wasn't there.
You just needed a coach.
I wasn't there. I was there, but I wasn't there.
You were somewhere else
I was somewhere else.
How old were you when you tried basketball?
Probably 6th, 7th grade.
Okay. A little later in the game. Yeah, like 3rd, 4th is the time to, just to get into So I have my daughter doing every single sport.
Good.
She's like, whether she just wants to do, she would just do dance, but I know dance gives all those body issues and all these different, and so I'm like, no, you're gonna do like what I did, which is you're gonna play all these, you know, all these. I was a tomboy, you know, when I was.
Yeah, I was a tomboy too.
And I'm like, you don't have a choice at this point because you might not like it. You're going to be bad at it, but you're going to get really good within a year. I promise you. It's like it happened for me. You'll be surprised. And then you get to have these skills for your whole life.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool thing to have all these different skills.
And you'll meet all these new people.
And be able to do physical activities that you enjoy.
Yeah.
You know, and they relate, and athletic abilities start to translate. Like, running, like she's playing lacrosse. I didn't get to play lacrosse, but she scored 2 goals in her last.
That's so amazing.
And in the beginning, she was using it like the stick, like it was a cane, and it was a baton, like at the first game. And I was like, "Get in there!" You know? Come on. But it's just cool to see that progression, and that's the same thing like with the singing. If we were just told, hey, actually, you know, that sounds shrill, and I don't want to hear it right now, but maybe we'll get you a couple singing lessons so we can figure this out, because you can do anything, Kelly.
Yeah,
you can do anything you want if you just put your mind to it.
Something that I learned that plays a factor in having a good singing voice is not having any tension in your body and not being nervous and letting it all go. Like you literally and sometimes when I'm home alone, I try to do it where I'm like, I try to like get all the air out of my body and like, I know how my voice sounds when I'm singing when like I feel like people can hear me, and it's terrible. It's like record scratching. Like, it's tight. But when you're alone and you're just like singing just like
singing
Adele,
in the shower,
or in the car, forget it. Like, you know, I can hear certain things where I'm like, oh, I feel like this isn't the worst thing I've ever heard, but I'm conditioned to think.
I feel like I heard you sing in the bathroom at some point, and you had a very good voice.
No, it couldn't be me.
I don't know.
Couldn't be me.
Maybe you didn't know I was there.
Maybe.
You were just singing. There's a lot of stuff that happens in bathrooms.
Yeah. A lot of stuff happens in bathrooms.
Which you're going to get a black erase marker, the kind that, you know, and you're going to write.
That mirror right there, forget
things.
it. I'm going to get a step stool because it's too high, and I'm going to write a ton of stuff on there.
You are lovable.
Yeah.
You are beautiful.
I'm beautiful. I'm funny.
You're funny. You're hilarious.
Yeah. That's the one thing that I'm starting to come around on myself on. I'm like, okay, I have to believe to a certain degree that I'm funny.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing this 6 years for what? Because I think I'm terrible.
I'm a joy to be around.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm 3 months booked out.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
right?
if only I could get my stand-up schedule to be like that. But
same here. That's what I'm going to Kill Tony.
Oh, fun.
On August, and I'm just every day I'm just visualizing my name being called. I'm like, that could be a life-changing thing. And then the Ladies of Laughter. I don't know if you heard about that, but I just need $30. No, here it's in New York.
Oh, Ladies of Laughter. I'm thinking
Amy
of
Schumer has
Riot
done
Girl.
it. Like Liz Glazer was the winner
Yeah.
one year. I think Robin Shaw probably won.
Yes,
they give really good bookings. I did it in 2014, and I didn't win. I was only like a year into comedy, so now I'm like 11 years in. So I want to do that one, and I'm just again visualizing, being why not? And then just seeing everything going, that's right, and it can change like that. I mean, a lot of these dudes are killing it, and then you watch their stuff and they suck.
Yeah.
So we're funny.
We're funny. We can do it. We're doing it. We are
right
doing
now.
It.
Right here.
Yeah, right here. We're doing it. And with that, we're well over an hour, man.
Okay. I have no idea. I lost track of time.
That's why I wear a watch.
I hypnotized you through it.
Yeah, you really did.
All your food is going to taste so much more salty and sugar. You're going to be like, what did she do to me? Because that's what happened with my mom, too. She was like, what did you say to me?
Yeah.
I just keep losing weight.
No, I mean, it's so interesting. And like, I definitely, it's once I finish, because right now my guest Amanda Gale from a few weeks ago, she told me about the book Women, Food, and God. So right now I'm listening to that, which literally is changing my life, like actively changing my fucking life. I love that book so much. Even just the first chapter of like her describing this retreat that she was hosting, the author, and like how all the women are sitting around and having to like all sit and like look at their food and like ask themselves why they're angry that they can't start eating, or like just like all these emotions that these women are facing at a bowl of shitty soup, you know. And it's like you unlock so much because there is so much there behind the relationship with food. And yeah, I just am very grateful for my therapist because she like has helped me unlock a lot of my weird food stuff, and it all goes back to childhood.
It does all go back to childhood. I'll say this one more thing is
Yes.
I don't know if you've ever tried this. Have you ever done the raisin, like the Buddhism raisin meditation?
No.
It's like it takes you like a really long time to like eat this raisin, where they're like just describing the raisin in your mouth and you're like not allowed to swallow it. It changes your next, at least your next meal. You're just so aware of
Each
how
flavor.
everything tastes and what and you may realize like this is so rich or this is so salty, whereas normally you just would mindlessly just take it down. So I recommend that too.
I like that a lot.
I hated it while I was doing it, but it's one of those. It's just like a lot of things. Like you're like, oh, what is it? What is this? What's happening? Why am I telling myself I'm lovable in the mirror? Like I said, for that day that comes in the future where you actually just are like, I'm lovable. And you feel this love towards yourself.
Totally. Because at the time of doing it, when you don't feel like that, it feels like you want to like physically reject it. Mm-hmm. But it's like lifting weights. It's all to be able to lift more in the future.
I like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. MJ, where can people find you?
MJ Murphy Comedy is on my Instagram, and find me there and we can go from there.
You'll find out about all of MJ's shows and
everything.
Shows that she's producing, shows that she's doing.
I'll be at the Grizzly Pear, I think June 16th.
Amazing.
That's my next one that I think I have in the city.
Cool. Amazing. Guys, all the information for MJ will be in the description of the show. Until next week. Bye.
Bye, friends.